Hi Libra, this is your uh, this is your December astrology. I don't know why October was wanting to come out of my mouth. This is December's astrology for all Libra, sun, moon, rising, and Venus signs. I always want to say though, I know Libra is ruled by Venus. So in a way, maybe that for you all and for Taurus is a little bit different. Because when I see Venus, I don't see Venus as love. I see Venus as our sensitivities. But you and Taurus both are ruled by Venus. So it may take a little bit of a different shift when I'm doing astrology for you all, because you're being ruled by Venus. I typically say Venus is our sensitivity. I don't speak of Venus as love, because that's just not how I see it. I see Venus as how we're sensitive emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically, and where that takes us in a positive or negative way. But with you all being ruled by Venus, that may be a little bit more potent than it is for everyone else. And you may also get confused in that Venus energy with those sensitivities. Because, like I said, this is not going to be about love. It can always communicate love, but I don't see it as going into a love reading when I'm talking about Venus. Now, so if this is your moon sign, if you're a Libra moon, we're talking more about your subconscious depths, your subconscious coming into consciousness. And I feel like with you all, you're very sensitive, more than normal. And that has to do partially with what's going on in your first house. I just try to make sure that I explain it all the way around, because technically the way Spirit explains it to me is there's 5 charts that are always going on at one time for any one person. And if we understand these 5 charts, it helps us to understand astrology better when we're, listening to videos and such along such a line. Now, that's because there is always, the ascending, which is when you do a real chart, starting from your first house all the way around. But then there's always the sun chart. Then there's the moon chart. Then there is the universal chart. And then there is the transiting chart. So there are always 5 charts that are technically, being cycled at one time for any one human being. And if you understand this idea, when you start to listen to astrology, it helps you to sort out exactly where these points are actually important for you and where they're not, and maybe you should be listening to under your moon, your Venus, or your rising sign. I'm just making sure I throw that out there. But for Libras right now, you guys are incredibly sensitive. And you're incredibly sensitive, for one, because you are ruled by Venus. But for 2, because in your first house, your house of self-awareness, you have the collective consciousness going on right now. The collective consciousness is Haumea. It's in your sign. So is Make, which is the level of the lotus flower, and so is Ura. So this is really starting to touch base on your inner emotional security, the true roots of who and what you are. Your pursuit of pleasure, Spirit is saying. Your communication that you have with your self-worth and your self-value. You're coming into an idea of understanding yourself unlike you ever have before, and you're going to continue to do that. But that's basically what they're bringing to me right now. But they're saying some of you really are having issues overcoming your stubborn inflexibility, meaning, you have it set in your head that it has to be this way or that way. And we're coming into a higher understanding of how we address ourselves, and identify with ourselves. And within that, for you all right now, you're coming into such a new level of understanding what all of that means, and getting past the idea of what you always thought, and allowing yourself to ascend, mature spiritually, soulfully, into a higher level of oneness, a higher level of truth, and stop stepping backwards, is what Spirit says, into old bad habits. Libras, I give you guys a hard time often, and I don't mean it with any disrespect, but Libra, the sign itself, is all about harmony and balance and justice. And that's a wonderful thing. But you're also the only sign that's not an animal or a human. You're the only sign that's actually a thing. You're the scales of justice. And because of that, often you put yourselves on the back burner. You put your heart in the shelf or in the drawer, and you create balance for everybody around you but yourself, because you put your heart in the drawer. And this is part of that inflexibility, stubbornness, that you have to learn to stop doing, is what Spirit is saying. Because you're just as equally as important, and you deserve that balance. You don't deserve to be below everybody else while you make harmony, justice, and balance for everybody else, but you don't get what you want. You have to be just as important as everybody else. Otherwise, you're creating false balance, is what false balance, which is actually keeping you from gaining your true self, gaining your true self-worth, self-esteem, and your own personal liberty. But this is overcoming philosophy of what you've come in life to understand is, and you're learning it's not anymore, and that it's okay to reincarnate yourself by healing those karmic debts of where you've put yourself below. Is that it? This is pretty much everything I've already said that you're saying. It's just a new level of transformation of self-awareness. Let's get looking at the chart. But before I do, let me actually back up just a minute. I like to always go back into the month before and let you know kind of where we're at as we enter the month, since this is for December. So November 25th, Venus moved into Capricorn. That's your ruling sign. And we'll look at that when we get here. Then we have the new moon that took place technically in Sagittarius, but it was a void of course coming out of Scorpio into Sagittarius, which means something was dying and rebirthing. Some kind of cycle was coming to an end of an era, and something new is about to begin. Or at least this is where you should be focusing towards. Now, on the 27th of November, Neptune went direct. And she's going direct, or he's going direct, pretty much right on top of Lilith. Now, Neptune is where we create our magic. It has gone direct, but it's still in shadow until mid-January. So it's actually at its weakest. On top of Lilith's trying to strengthen understanding that inner fire. You burn for you, not for anybody else. It's that same kind of conversation I was saying earlier. Your life, your soul fire is for you. Not for you to make everybody else happy. For you. But Neptune is in Neptune's coming out of retrograde and just starting to move forward again in shadow, kind of looking at the darker aspects of where you're not burning for you. Neptune is also considered Poseidon, so it's your inner emotional waters. And where are they raging from where they, calm? And you're understanding these energies. Now, as I move into December, On the 2nd, Jupiter moves into Capricorn. Let me just say, we're all walking through Sagittarius because anytime the sun is in an area, that's typically the house that we are walking through, mainly. And while we're walking through Sagittarius, though, Capricorn, that very next house for next month, is loaded. So it is definitely filling up our energies. Jupiter moves into Capricorn on the 2nd. Mercury moves into Sagittarius on the 9th, the house that you'll be in for the most part. You have the full moon taking place in Cancer on the 12th. But I am being told there's a lot of Taurus Gemini energy that's coming with that full moon, and that has to do with the full moon of last month. Now, Venus is moving, your sign is moving into Aquarius on the 20th. So it's in Capricorn with Pluto, with Saturn, with Jupiter, with Ceres. Yeah, up until the 20th when Venus moves out, and then the 21st, the sun moves in to Capricorn, because Venus is going into Aquarius on the 20th. On the new moon, you have on the new moon, which is the 26th, you have a solar eclipse in Capricorn. So that also adds, that would be, trying to get my phone pull up again. That would be Jupiter, Ceres, Saturn, the sun, Pluto, and the moon. So you still have 6 signs in there. That's a very powerful energy for you this month, even though you're walking through the Sagittarius energy. We'll get there in a moment. And then you have Mercury, which will be moving into Capricorn on the 28th. But from the 9th through the 28th, it's in Sagittarius. Now, for you directly, this means you're in your 3rd house of communication for the most part. And for you, that is Sagittarius. The sun is there, Pallas is there, and Mercury is there until the 26th until the 28th when Mercury moves out, and the 21st when the sun moves out, leaving it with nothing but Pallas there. You're very communication right now. Pallas is Athena, the warrior goddess. She is strategic thinking. She is helping you strategically think your way through the communication, through your very delivery system of your very details, your intellect, your trivia, your conversations, the very communication, how you are making these messages, the small bits of information, the delivery system itself of your text messages, your emails, actual communication. But the 3rd house also deals with the siblings and the neighbors as well. The very short, quick journeys of something that is important, and those small bits of information that are highly important. With the sun, Pallas, and Mercury here, your communication is all important right now, and you're very illuminated in it. So this is a positive thing for you, but do pay attention to the details, because everybody else most likely will be, and if you're not, then you may find yourself hiccuping. I am also being told for some of you, this is short journeys that are about to take place, so you may be taking traveling for the holidays important at this time. You may be taking traveling that deals with work environment for the holidays at this point, because they are giving me their short journeys that are going to be taking place. And make sure that you have your communication on those short journeys correct. That would mean like checking the airlines and making sure the weather is good and stuff like that, and that you didn't make any hiccups on that, so that, everything goes well. But I believe this communication also has a lot to do with the communication you have with yourself at this point, because it is the third house, it's the communication zone, but it comes right after that first and second house. Now let me back up. Let's go into your first house, your very self-awareness, your physical body, your personality, your appearance, your view of life, your identification, your image. You have Haumea and make here. This is your collective consciousness and your level of the lotus flower. The lotus flower is a spiritual flower that we look at for spiritual growth. It grows in muddy, murky water. So it grows in swampland. So the idea here is can you see your true self, or are you stuck in the swamp? Can you see what you truly desire, what you truly go for, what you truly aim for? The true authenticity of yourself. Is it coming out in your personality, in your appearance, your view of life, your identification? Is it rising out of that swamp? Is the collective consciousness truly speaking to you of what you want to see of yourself and where you want to take that? You have Ura here, which is saying there needs to be sacrifice and commitment to yourself at this time. In the very image of who and what you're trying to create for yourself. And are you being honest with yourself about truly giving yourself that sacrifice and commitment to create where you want to take yourself? How you want to redevelop yourself as we come into this next 20 years. Now, as we come into your second house, this is Scorpio. This is where you just had the first new moon coming back on that second new moon, which was coming into Sagittarius. Your very communication of yourself with your own self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, how you feel liberated, have confidence in yourself, believe in yourself, how you dress yourself, address yourself as well. That's where your hidden truths of your hidden talents come forward. And within that, that's where you create and spend your money, because you're in your self-worth, self-value, self-esteem. When you feel better about yourself, you bring yourself up into a higher caliber. And then your money, your self-worth, self-value, self-esteem comes into that higher caliber. How you dress yourself, how you feel about yourself, the confidence you give yourself. Because the second house is also your movable properties, like your cell phone. Those little things that make you feel good about yourself and have more confidence about being yourself because you have those things. Some people, it's your glasses. You know what I'm saying? Some people, it is the way you dress yourself. Because for some reason, I keep getting furniture. Furniture and clothing. Furniture and clothing. And for somebody, that means a lot. For somebody, that's really a big part of their very identification and where they're at of that movable property. But like I said, you just had that new moon for new beginnings coming out of Scorpio, which is death, decay, and destruction, coming into a new rebirthing of self-worth, self-value, self-esteem for renewal, rebirth, regeneration. And then coming into a new understanding of how you communicate that truth that you're discovering because of Sagittarius and Mercury energy. How you are communicating that self-worth, self-value, self-esteem with yourself and the world around you. You should be coming into a new intellect of yourself, is what I just heard. A new higher understanding of what is truly important to you as a whole. I'm just making sure I wasn't getting anything else. Now, because we already discussed the third house as this being the communication zone for you, let's go jump right into the fourth house. Now, the fourth house for you is where your bases are loaded. That's Capricorn. And like I said, up until the 20th, when Venus moves out, you have Venus, Pluto, Saturn, Ceres, and Jupiter talking to your very inner emotional security, talking to the home, but also talking to the home. The home is the heart and the soul. It's where the vessel is carrying the soul. You cannot lose your power unless you accidentally gave it away. You cannot lose your independence, your strength, your identification, your image, unless you accidentally misplaced it and gave it away because you chose to not believe in yourself. Self-worth, self-value, self-esteem. Your very awareness of this. Venus is speaking to you of that inner emotional security, of the child that you was and how that created you as an adult. But also on a more spiritual, soulful level of the soul that cannot be taken away, that cannot be tarnished. And what the true roots of your true self and your soul are. The home that is you. Your very true, real self, mixed with your upbringing, and how that either helped strengthen your self-worth, self-value, self-esteem within your very inner emotional security, or how it worked against you. And this is talking about healing that, because Venus is bringing that home energy, as well as your people that are in the home, your children, your family members, and what the home represents to you. It is bringing to you the sensitivities of where that is good and where it is not, and why. Because Venus is sensitivity. Like I said, she's not love. But at this point, she's asking you, do you love yourself? And are you loving yourself honestly, truly? Are you being, are you giving yourself the justice you deserve? Or are you pulling yourself back down? You have Ceres here, which is the threefold. It's karma. Karma has come in with the threefold theory, and she's asking you, where have you nurtured yourself, right? And where have you been neglecting yourself in that inner emotional security and the very home energy? If you are not comfortable with your home, with yourself, and what you think and create the idea of home to be, then how is there inner emotional security? How is there self-worth, self-value, and self-esteem? How is the self-awareness in a good place? Like I said, you have the threefold theory bringing in karma, bringing in the question of, are you nurturing yourself correctly, or have you been neglecting yourself? You have Jupiter coming in, bringing in abundance and knowledge, throwing it in your face, whether it's positive or negative. Because Jupiter is positive, it is lucky, but it also is the higher educator. It is the higher self bringing in that education of that knowledge. And it's abundance with it. So it's throwing it at you. So if you are not in your inner emotional security and you have this problem with self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, it's going to be correcting that and putting it in alignment. Venus is going to be making you feel very sensitive in positive ways of ooey gooey, soft and chewy. I feel good about myself. Or this is very uncomfortable, this whole home thing. Myself, my vessel, as well as the home and the people that you have in it and what you've created to be home. Venus is going to be bringing that to your attention. Jupiter is asking you, not Jupiter, Pluto is asking you what parts of yourself needs to change so that you can get right with self, deeply, truly, satisfying right with self. Saturn is saying, well, there's rules, walls, and boundaries here that don't fit. And how do we shift them so that they now were working for us? So what changes have to be made here? And then you'll have the sun moving in on the 21st when we move into Capricorn season, which will be that inner emotional security you'll be walking through. So the more you're ahead of that, and the more you've gotten right with yourself, come the 21st, and come that new moon and that solar eclipse that's taking place in that fourth house of the home and your inner emotional security, your true roots, your true self, healing the child, and bringing that self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, and your own liberty, your back to you, your own confidence back to you, the more you'll be ahead of that new moon and that solar eclipse and next month's energy. because you're already communicating in healthy ways to yourself. So this is like a prep for that. Now, you have Aquarius, which is your fifth house, your pursuit of pleasure. This asks you, where are you letting your inner child play? Where are you letting that inner child experience life and bring back to you the enjoyment of life? This is your creative expression. This could be music, art. This could be just your personal interests and your hobbies. It could be teaching, trivia, dancing. What is it that makes you happy? What tweaks your interest so that you're more excited to be part of life? That's the pursuit of pleasure. Venus is going to be moving in right before that solar eclipse on the 26th into this house, your fifth house, your inner creativity, your inner enjoyment, your inner pursuit of pleasure. And she's going to be questioning, are you getting that enjoyment? Are you getting that fun? And if not, well, what's standing in the way of you doing so? Why are you allowing it to stand in the way of you doing so? Venus will tell you if you're going in the right direction or the wrong, because she'll bring those sensitivities to your very emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical body. So this is about making sure that you're getting right with your inner child, you're getting right with your pursuit of pleasure, you're getting right with being able to explore and enjoy your enjoyment in life. And are you taking the time for that? Because it brings you right back to your inner emotional security, your self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, and strengthening the identification of who you really are. So where is parts of you not giving yourself parts of you the right to be you? You'll be noticing that all the way up through to the 26th when you have that solar eclipse. And like I said, the more you're on top of that, the less the solar eclipse has to give you the smackdown to put you in the right direction. Then Mercury will be moving in, like I said, to that fourth house of that inner emotional security, also giving you the smackdown right after that solar eclipse on the 28th, if you haven't been on top of it. Now, as we come into the sixth house here, this is where you may be a little bit at your weakest right now. But Lilith is trying to give it some strength. Your everyday daily tasks are more important than you realize. Your daily work, your daily service to the world, your health, diet, hygiene, your physical body and its wellness, your ability to work because of your physical body and its wellness, along with, like I said, we have daily routines. And in these daily routines, there are people, places, and things of energy that you consume. You like swallow it. It's part of your everyday activity. These people, places, and things, and the energies you consume. So the question is are these energies that you consume healthy in these daily routines? People, places, things, as well as your service, your daily working environment, your health, your diet, your hygiene, how you take care of yourself. You're very caretaking of yourself. And this energy is Pisces. You want to believe that it's better than it might be. You want to talk yourself into believing it's better than it might be. Pisces is a naive energy, and I do hate to say that, but it's the truth. Pisces, first off, has Neptune in it, which is in retrograde. I mean, coming out of retrograde, it's kind of just very slowly moving back into its direct position. So it's kind of still at the moment. In Pisces, Neptune is how you create magic. It's where fantasy smacks you in the face with harsh reality. It's the confusion of illusion versus delusion. In Pisces, it's also wanting to believe that things are better than they may be. You may give people credit and then be taken advantage of. And this is why I said the everyday daily tasks that you are part of, the people, places, and things that are in your everyday routines, and the energy that you consume. Are you recreating what you want to see come forward. And I mean, are you recreating what you've always been a part of? Like I said, Spirit is saying stubborn and flexibility, stuck in the idea that this is the only way, where in fact you can recreate these routines to be more satisfying for you by realizing where they're healthy and where they're unhealthy, where you're lying to yourself and where you're not, where the people, places, and things that you consume of energy are supporting that very self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, or not. Lilith here is asking you, why aren't you burning for you? That soul fire that's yours was meant for you, not for you to create justice and balance outwardly for everybody else, but for your own inner emotional security and your own self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, and liberty and confidence within yourself. Now I'm out of time, so I'm going to start back from the 7th through the 12th house with part 2, but please come back. I love you guys.